Okay, welcome back to the Bayta Podcast. Today I am joined by Will Billingsley. Am I saying that correct?
Perfect.
Awesome. And so I saw Will on LinkedIn whilst lockdown's going on, and I'm trying to stay connected and see what's going on out there, especially in the fintech space. And yeah, I saw a post. I think Louis Sutton might have liked it, and I have a mutual connection with him. And I saw it and I decided to go onto the platform and try to see what it's all about. And I've had a little play around, but I'll pass it over to you to kind of introduce yourself and a little bit about Aptap.
Sure. Start with Aptap, I guess. It's more exciting. So at Aptap, we're building kind of white labeled APIs that allow banks and fintechs to offer bill management tools to their customers. What that means basically is that you as a user will be able to open up your banking app and cancel, compare, switch, or sign up to various services, all from within that account. I think what you saw was probably our direct consumer app launch.
Yeah.
So last week we launched our kind of web app, which basically has all the same functionality, but you're able to link multiple bank accounts into our platform. We basically then understand what bills and subscriptions you have automatically. And then we've already gone and done a comparison of your bills versus deals in the market to allow you to switch with a few clicks. How we got here, geez.
Maybe give a bit of background, about where you're from and what you've studied and kind of, because how old are you now, if you don't mind saying?
25. Yeah,
25.
Awesome. I was born here. I actually grew up in Aberdeenshire, a little town just outside of Aberdeen, for about 11 years, and then moved over to the States, followed my dad's job. So he's in malaria vaccine research. And then, I was very passionate about the kind of biosciences, life sciences space. Well, as much as I knew about it at the time anyway, I thought I was passionate about it. And kind of as I graduated high school, I was very unsure as to what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up taking a gap here. I spent 4 and a bit months in Tanzania working for my dad's company, just trying to help set up a clinical trial out there. Which was a very intense experience, but really started to shape kind of at least where I wanted to kind of be or do, which was moving out of the lab. That being said, though, I'd already accepted a place at Imperial for biology. So I was diving straight back into the lab, going into university. I think I had a very relaxed kind of ski season after that Africa trip, and worked in like a country club to make some money before going into uni, and going from culture shock in Africa to very laid back experiences, let's say back in the States, to really high intensity, high workload education at Imperial, which is a top 10 uni in the world or something. It was definitely kind of like jumping in a cold bath or something. And so that kind of shocked the system a little bit. Kind of realized that education probably isn't my forte and just not something I'm super passionate about. But I do enjoy biology. I enjoy the kind of high level concepts of it, at least, and managed to push through it for the most part. I then did a year in management at the business school at Imperial. That for me, it was about opening up more doors again, kind of moving out of the lab and trying to get more into like business dev space. And the biosciences, biotech is something I'd love to get back into at some point.
Why did you want to go into the kind of more business development space then? What kind of prompted that?
I think for me, it's about the kind of personal interactions for the most part. I think that's maybe not something I knew then, but now that I've been doing it for a little while, it's definitely like my favorite part of the job. And that's, from meeting just a random person or reaching out like you did to me on LinkedIn, right? And just saying, I think what you're doing is super cool. Can we have a chat? And just sitting down and ideating with people and seeing where ideas go and things like that. And that's why I really hit it off with my two co-founders at Aptap, Isa and Nadal. We were playing football together throughout university, and we would just start kind of ideas around and seeing kind of what stuff, what we thought was good. We literally had a book of here are all the biggest problems in the world, from like heart disease through to solar power and all that kind of stuff. And Nadal graduated a year before us from his masters.
And were you all studying the same sort of things, or were you doing different things?
Yeah, so I was studying bio, and then management, which kind of helped us write our first business plan. Nadal was actually studying physics, and Issa's in engineering. So pretty different degrees. Somehow I ended up doing like a lot of the maths stupidly. But yeah, so Nadal finished a year before us. He joined a kind of network, I suppose, called Founders of the Future, which is like a young entrepreneurs network in the UK, founded by Brent Hoberman.
Is that kind of under like the Founders Factory sort of?
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're a really great team, or a great brand in general, let's say, and it's no wonder this new fund, the Future Fund, is called the Future Fund. Brent Hoberman's been involved. And so I think with Founders Factory supporting kind of Founders of the Future and their forums that they do, we were getting more and more interested in the startup space. None of us really wanted to work for someone else or go and work in a big corporate. My flatmate's just outside the door there. He's well, markets have closed, but he's been like trading away all day for Barclays, and got other friends at various hedge funds and banks, and we were just like, that's not us. So we learned about open banking at a Santander event. And really it just started to kind of roll from there. We're like, okay, what can we do that addresses these big problems that we've written down with this cool new technology that's coming out? And really evolved into how do we link people's spending to their carbon footprint, and help people improve from there. And Imperial actually sponsored Nadal and then Issa for their entrepreneurs visas off the back of this idea, which is pretty cool. And
was that through some kind of like university kind of accelerator branch, or was it just?
So basically, they I have mixed feelings about Imperial College London, and I suppose it'd be unwise to voice them too much, but I didn't have a great time as an undergrad. I didn't think there was a lot of support for undergrads in general, especially in my stream. But when it got to kind of starting the business and getting into things like the lean startup or product market fit and how you user test early days, and support for young entrepreneurs who are looking to start stuff either from cool technology they've discovered during their PhD or just some random idea like ours. There's a whole lot more from the university in that regard. And so we were lucky to get some really good business coaches kind of through the uni early days that helped just kind of slowed us down a little bit and just said, look, take a deep breath. I know you're excited. You've got this grant or this visa. And that was basically, you go to the university, say, I've got this cool idea. You submit a business plan. They listen to the top 20 and fund like 10 or something like that. So we went and did that, and got that sponsorship for the guys, which felt great. We were like, well, if Imperial backs it, then it's got to be a good idea. Which lo and behold, we've completely pivoted since then. And so we were kind of like, hold your horses a little bit and actually dive into what people care about. Are you actually solving a problem for people? And kind of pivoted the business then into more of like a personal financial management or like a budgeting tool for people. And then, since then, not a whole lot has changed, but I think it's been about refinement and structure and just tweaking things here and there. And, we rolled out a beta towards the end of 2018 that saw us in front of like a couple hundred people just saying, does this work for you? And the big piece of feedback we were getting was, I mean, it looks good and it shows me my bills and things, but what can I actually go and do? And we're like, yeah, that's actually a very good point. If I want to cancel something or switch something or sign up to something new, like discovery is such a large thing I think is overlooked. You just can't.
So did you feel, sort of mentioning there, that you mentioned that you didn't have the support kind of from that kind of lean startup, getting early user feedback, that had you had more support in that area, this would have cut the kind of lead time on learning these things, or?
No, well, I may have misworded a little bit, but I think, we got more support in that than we did actually at university.
Right, I see. Okay.
Which is what
okay, I get it now.
But in terms of stuff like the lean startup, right, people can preach it, you can read the book, but go out and just do it. And like, there's so many, I've got a number of kind of young entrepreneurs, even school age kids that approach me, either see me on LinkedIn, they see like a talk I do, and it's not that many, but it's some, and they're usually the same questions. And at the end of the day, it's, when should I start building my app? And I'm like, well, if you haven't actually validated that these are pain points, if you haven't validated the thing you want to build might solve them, and you don't know what the top 3 things are your customer wants, then what are you doing building an app? You're going to spend, you can spend millions on an app, right? Bo, RBS, NatWest, right? They just spent a lot of money building a challenger bank to realize that they didn't have product market fit. Or that they were too late to the market, depends on your perspective. But yeah, so I think, it's very good to have people in those positions, mentors, be it short-term or long-term, like the guys that sat with us at Imperial were there for 6 months to a year, but now we've kind of moved on to the next level. And so we bring in some new mentors and some new advisors and things like that. Actually just having this conversation with somebody right before this call. And so I don't know, you kind of have to learn it the hard way, but pivoting isn't a bad thing. It's just sometimes it kind of hurts.
Of course.
Because you're like, this.
It's your baby. It's something that you've really stuck onto. Yeah. Maybe we can take a step back and just go back to kind of that, as you mentioned, like, ultimately you have to prove and validate that there is a problem, understand your customers' pain points. Maybe you could give an example to other like aspiring founders that want to go through this process now but don't even know where to start, how to get that early user engagement, that early user feedback. What did you do during your process for Aptap?
Half the time I went down Exhibition Road in South Kensington and just screamed at people, like, is this something you want? But you can do that. Obviously, it's very hard now with coronavirus. Yes. Much harder to get that physical connection and read people's body language.
Yeah, of course.
Really get into the detail. So with the couple of kind of really early stage founders that have approached me for some advice is, there's a Facebook group for everything. There's a LinkedIn group for everything. There are Twitter communities. There's people on Reddit. There's so many little niches or pockets of people that you can throw a survey in there that's really non-leading, right? So we use like the Mum's Test. It's a great book. To just ask people questions in a way that we're not just going to get the answer we want to see. So I'm not saying, oh, you like football, right? It's like, do you like football?
Yeah.
Versus
no confirmation bias there.
Like football. Yeah. And so, we tried to stick to that as much as possible. Really identified what those pain points were initially, and in doing so could then just kind of outline a prototype on paper, right? And just say, here's what you said, come back to this. So I told a kid to do this the other day, and he went, put a quick survey, 10 questions in a Facebook group. He's looking to build out in the kind of medical sciences space, an app that helps people track their asthma. And, he put this thing in, got almost 1,000 responses in a day, which is nuts. I don't think we ever got that responses, right? But this is something people are passionate about. So it's clearly there's something there. And so you've got this many people responding. Now he has a list of, here are the top 10 things people are annoyed by. And he can go back and say, okay, well, here's my idea. And based on your pain points, these are the things that cover them.
Yeah.
Would something like this work for you? And then you can go and start to prototype it. It doesn't even have to be live, right?
Yeah.
We use Protolio or Envision. And that, you use drag and drop or like build buttons, right? Like Wix or something like that just allows people to kind of feel it, and the difference between people, between what people say they would do and what people actually do is then very evident.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things to overcome, right? We've got people saying, yeah, if I could, I would just switch my bill like that. But then now it's live and available.
They're not doing it.
Are you actually going to do it? Are you going to do it? Yeah. I don't want to say they're not doing it because it's our app.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to incentivize people. And so it's getting over, and it's a conversation we've had for months and getting deeper and deeper into is, and it's very pertinent with open banking, is what level is it? Do customers get over that kind of insecurity of, I don't know who you are as a business or as a person?
Yeah.
So like, if my flatmate will go and switch his energy using Aptap because he knows me, he knows what we've done, he knows how we've done it, he knows that we've built everything bank level security, we use TrueLayer, he's got secure access to banks, we've XYZ. But is, Joe Blogs in Bristol who's never heard of Aptap going to go through and do it? Yeah, or is it the tangible value, right? And so at what point does the value outweigh that kind of insecurity? And I think that's what you're really trying to get down to when you're looking for product market fit, is tipping those scales in your favor. Yeah, and if we're saying, we're going to save you 500 quid versus, I don't know, I want to link my bank account, then it starts to become a little bit more compelling. Yeah, so I think, the initial stages are going to feel like you want to do more and you want to go faster. But you don't necessarily have, if you've got 5,000 people who have just signed up instantly to your website, you've put up a landing page and people are like, gimme, then you're probably onto something, right? And safer bet to go and build something. But if you're working through the motions, identifying problems and seeing ways you can kind of cover those, then you're in a much better place, in my opinion. Yeah, and this, I mentioned before we started recording, is kind of working on this starter pack for early stage founders right now. And so that's something I want to just kind of pump out to people for anyone to use to kind of see how I did it, see what my thoughts were, see what the books kind of summarize, say, product market fit, lean startup, how to hire, how to actually register the company, raising your first investment, that sort of thing. And try and pull in some expert opinions throughout that to actually prove that I'm not a lunatic.
And I think you're absolutely right. Like, it's so important that, yes, you read these words and the knowledge in these kind of books and the big methodologies, like, they're widely adopted and used for a reason. However, I only start to see really the true value when I started working in tech, working on different apps, different websites, different web applications, and actually being like, oh, okay, right, this actually makes sense now. Rather than spending 6 weeks tunneling building a technical infrastructure, we could have just asked 10 users what they thought, and it would have completely shaped the way that we were going. So 100% it is about action along with the kind of theory.
Yeah, I think there's some discrepancy as well between your kind of problem product fit and your product problem fit and your product market fit. Okay, sure, 10 people might have your problem, but be wary that 10,000 people might not.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for this kid who's working on this asthma app, he's probably in a great place in that regard, in which the 10, 50, 20, 900 and something or whatever it was, people that responded to that are probably pretty indicative of what's happening wider scale. But for us, we've got a lovely bubble in London of people who are really active in fintech. But beyond, like, if I go up to even like Birmingham, right, big city, not a whole lot of people have the Monzos and Starlings and Revoluts and things. So it's interesting.
So let's switch gears back to Aptap then. What in the initial stages or where you're at now, what's your current kind of product offering and your strategy going forward to kind of grow, especially in this space, because it seems crazy that you go from this kind of biomed lab background into, okay, we want to go into APIs and working in fintech.
Yeah, luckily I'm not the technologist.
So actually, before we jump into the details, then how's it split out between you and your co-founders? You're more on the business development side.
Yeah, that's why I do the podcast. Yeah, so myself, more on the BD and sales and marketing stuff. Again, as I mentioned, over the last kind of few years, really fleshed out the desire is the wrong word, but just the enjoyment around like interacting with people and sitting down over a beer and hashing out a problem, or negotiating or pitching and things like that. It just kind of gets you going. And I think a lot of people who've started a company will know what that feels like, and they either love it or hate it, really. But I think once you've got the itch in the startup world, it's so hard to scratch it,
especially in London.
Definitely, yeah. You can just keep going, man. I've got so many ideas up here that I'd love to do. I just don't have time for. So then Nadal, CEO, he's taking care of kind of funding and hiring aspects of the business. The boring stuff the rest of us don't really want to take care of. Isa is our CTO, the other co-founder. he kind of laid out all the prototypes and stuff early days. So it's kind of Nadal and I earliest ideating, kind of sitting down, writing business plan, that sort of thing. Pulled Isa in as we got to kind of more consumer testing and things like that. But it was still pretty early days. So yeah, kind of brought it all together. And then our first hire was a head developer to add some gray hairs or experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he just shaved his head, so no hairs at this point. The classic COVID haircut,
similar to me,
that you're sporting. Yeah. So that, 15 years of development experience really helps. And then getting someone like that on board who's willing to take that pay cut to work for an early stage startup, but passionate about the project and, wants to make his stamp on it is great to have. Really, really great to have. So the next hires that are happening as we speak, well, just brought in an intern from, she's just graduated from UCL, going to Imperial, hopefully, whenever it starts.
Yeah, of course.
From a more kind of marketing, consumer facing perspective. And then bringing in a couple more devs as well that our head dev knew from previous jobs, and they get on really well, really, really talented. So excited to have them on board. Doing a funding round. At the moment, we've just started to unlock a couple more, some cash really that we already had lined up through various business dev deals and things that we're doing. So giving ourselves a little bit more runway, but we'd like to have a round closed off over the next kind of few weeks, 6 to 9 weeks or so.
Awesome.
And we raised a round last summer, so we're in an okay place. It's a bit frustrating because we went through the Accentures Fintech Innovation Lab, which was where I met Louis. Turns out Louis and my flatmate knew each other from school, and I just never knew until this started. But small world, and so we built up a lot of momentum through that. That's a program that really puts you in front of 50 plus financial institutions, and it's an absolute dream for me because I'm bouncing around all these banks in Canary Wharf and the city, just absolutely loving it. And then lockdown, everything stops. And, we had a pilot lined up for April with a big bank, and that's been pushed back to July. And now it's been brought forward again because people are crying out for a way to manage their money, and the bank needs ways of generating revenue without tying it to interest rates and things like that. So it's volatile out there right now. And it's been nice though, because now I've actually gotten so many more inbound messages from potential clients, right? Saying, absolutely love what you're doing. You've got the right focus on the right place. And in terms of consumers, what can we do and how quickly can we do it? So we've actually been kind of inundated the past few weeks, which makes for, a very busy lockdown period. It means it's not been as...
That's what you want though. Otherwise you're going crazy.
That's it. Right? Yeah, exactly. It's not been as kind of mind drilling as it could have been. So yeah, pretty exciting. And if we can get, the few integrations we have lining up done over the next few months, and we can prove out our market validation even further with this big pilot that we're running up to next month, then we think we're in a really, really good place to kind of put our foot on the gas a little bit and see if we can scale this business up properly, take it wider in the UK, take it into Europe.
And where do you see the kind of longer term vision? Obviously things are likely to change as it depends on the validation, but of your kind of product offering, that what is it that people go to, okay, Aptap, they do?
Yeah, so I think the easy way of thinking about us is this kind of like next gen affiliate marketplace. We like to pitch it as like an app store or an iTunes for any service that's available out there. Anything you're going to pay on a recurring basis will be housed in this. And so what we're doing is offering, the APIs for a bank to plug in, and they can offer their customer cancellation, comparison, switching, sign up across all of these products, across all of these brands, across all of these industries. And that's the goal. So primary focus right now is on utilities and telecoms, kind of streamlining those journeys. Chose those two because they're kind of baseline when you think about like Go Compare, like a U-Switch or something. But better, obviously. And so, we've kind of streamlined the broadband journey now to a few clicks, which is actually really cool to see. We've got, Mobile phone lining up next is the next thing we kind of want to do. But, there are various things here and there, and it's still about listening to the customer. If it's, I don't really care about phone switching, I want to see cancellation across the board, like standardized. Then that's something we might focus in on. I think the biggest thing, and this is why we like to call ourselves a kind of data company as opposed to anything else, is just trying to open up data across the board. So, we have open banking and finance that's securely opened up your transaction list to a third party that you've authorized. Why can't we have that in utilities or telecoms or insurance products where I know exactly, as Aptap, you used X kilowatt hours of energy a month or X gigabytes of data on your phone, and I can match your usage trends or amalgamate those with your financial trends and say, based on your user profile and demographics across, initially the UK, but then across the world, here is the product for you. And so what we're trying to do is, it's about increasing awareness internally, what's happening in my little ecosystem of subscriptions and bills and bank accounts that I have, and what's happening out here on the market, bringing those together, putting the bank in the middle of that interaction as this kind of trusted advisor or deal broker on behalf of the customer, and then driving new revenue through the affiliate model for the bank, new channels for those suppliers into customers, richer data insights out for everyone. But then, what's the value proposition for a service supplier like a BT or a British Gas or someone? And we're saying, open up your customers' usage data so we can bring them onto a better deal. I think that's the hardest part, but this is what we're going for. I think this is the way the world is moving, is give ownership to the customer of their data. They decide what happens with it. And the supplier can reap the rewards if they do it in a way that works for the consumer. So,
well, it makes sense. Similar to open banking, isn't it? Exactly. Like if you give people the power, the theory is that you open up utilities for telecommunications, that it will force the companies in that space to either innovate and become better and offer better services, or new entrants to come in and offer customers better services. So it forces everyone to up their game.
Exactly it. And it's, this is something we're going to be talking about on our kind of the video series we'd like to do around how do you incentivize that. And with open banking, it was regulations. FCA and the European Banking Authority had to come in and say, this is happening whether you like it or not. Is that going to happen in utilities and telecoms? Probably not anytime soon. So we have to do it cheeky ways. We got to go data scrape and build partnerships, and it's labor intensive for me. That's my job. But it's exciting, and once we get the first few on board, I think we'll start to see that if we can offer you richer data insights, then you are getting customers who are suited better to your products, and you're able to optimize your products and innovate, like you said, more so than ever.
Awesome. Well, look, we're coming up to 30 minutes now. Just before I go into a last couple of quickfire questions, do you have any sort of last tips for the typical people that are messaging you, that want to start their app, want to start their business? What are the kind of, let's say, top three pieces of advice that you'd give from your experience with Aptap?
Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think that's a big one. It's something I was definitely afraid to do in university. Maybe that's why I didn't get the help I really, really wanted in uni. But now I'll do it. So yeah, number one would be, don't be afraid to ask questions, reach out. Be optimistic but realistic. So it's good to have a positive outlook on things, but if you're getting in over your head and you're thinking you are already that self-made millionaire who's made it, you're not, most likely. And if you are, why are you messaging me? That's might be where you want to be, but keep your feet kind of grounded.
Keep a level head.
Yeah, and work your way there. Third thing, have some fun. If you're not having fun, it's not worth it. And I think, there's going to be times where it's really, really, really stressful. I think, first piece of anything is some self-reflection, understand, is it something I'm going to be able to handle? But yeah, at the end of the day, we all love what we do and we stick in it and we can support each other. We might have arguments between the founders, but that's what we're there for. We're there to disagree with each other. but we're also there to support each other. And if none of us are having fun, then I don't think we would be here.
Awesome note to finish on. Okay, right. Couple last questions. Very quick fire questions. So I'm trying to remember them. Okay, audiobook or real book?
Real book.
Netflix or reading?
Video games.
What video games are you playing?
Currently on Jedi Fallen Order, the Star Wars game.
Oh, I finished that over Christmas.
I'm just getting into it really, and obviously Call of Duty. My friends are all on it, and like
hop in
trying to play Star Wars, but I'm getting pulled.
Awesome. I lost my train of thought. Biggest person that influenced you?
That's a tough one. That's a really, really tough one. Probably my dad, to be honest.
Awesome. And the last one is, if you could recommend one book to the listeners.
Recently, probably my most favorite book has been Pitch Anything by Oren Clough. Really, really, really good book. Be careful with those techniques because he teaches you kind of how to frame yourself walking into a pitch and how to kind of own the room. Mm-hmm. But you can come across as overconfident if you try too hard. That's happened a couple of times to me. It's just practice and learning. So, but a very good book. Just looking at my books right now, but yeah, that would be the one.
Awesome. Will, thank you so much for coming on. I will leave links to Will's LinkedIn. Anything else you want me to plug in particular?
LinkedIn, I'll send you a link for our web app.
Yes, awesome. And when the kind of startup resource pack comes out, I'll be sure to share that around as well. Just ping it over to me.
Awesome. It'll be on my LinkedIn as well. So
awesome. Well, thank you for listening.
Really appreciate it.